Life gives every human being dreams, visions, and hidden abilities. Yet only a few people transform those dreams into reality. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is often not intelligence, not talent, and not luck. The difference is action. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect time, waiting for confidence, waiting for motivation, and waiting for opportunity. Yet the truth of life is simple. Opportunity appears when action begins. Confidence grows when movement starts. Motivation awakens when effort is made. The idea of forcing yourself to take action may sound uncomfortable at first, because the human mind naturally prefers comfort and safety. The mind loves familiar routines and predictable paths. It often avoids effort and difficulty, because effort demands energy and courage. But growth never lives inside comfort. Growth lives where effort exists. Growth lives where a person decides to move forward, even when the heart is uncertain, and the mind is full of questions. Imagine a student who dreams of becoming a great scientist. He spends years thinking about discoveries and inventions, but never opens a book or begins his experiments. His dreams remain beautiful, yet powerless, because they are never connected to action. Now imagine another student who also dreams of becoming a scientist, but every day he forces himself to study, to read, to experiment, and to learn from failure. Even if he struggles, even if progress is slow, his actions slowly shape his future. One day, his work may lead to discovery, not because he was the smartest person in the room, but because he was the one who acted. Action is the most powerful force in human life. Every achievement, every invention, every great story began with a simple decision to act. The first step is rarely perfect. The first attempt is often uncertain. The first effort may even fail. Yet every meaningful journey begins with that first movement. A person who waits for perfect conditions may wait forever, while a person who forces themselves to start creates their own opportunities. There are countless examples throughout history where ordinary people changed their lives simply by choosing action. A young writer once dreamed of publishing a book, but he doubted his ability and feared criticism. One day, he made a decision that changed everything. The pages slowly turned into chapters, and the chapters eventually formed a book. What once seemed impossible became real, because he replaced hesitation with action. Another example can be seen in the story of a young athlete who wished to compete at the highest level. In the beginning, his body was weak, and his skills were average. Many people around him believed he would never succeed, yet he forced himself to train every morning before the sun appeared. He forced himself to practice when others rested, and to improve when others gave up. Over time, his discipline created strength and skill. Years later, he stood as a champion, not because success came easily, but because he never stopped taking action. Forcing yourself to take action does not mean ignoring fear or difficulty. It means accepting that fear and difficulty are natural companions on the road to progress. Every person who attempts something meaningful will face moments of doubt, moments of fatigue, and moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. The difference between those who move forward and those who remain behind is the willingness to act despite those feelings. Action also creates clarity. Many people wait for certainty before beginning, but certainty often appears after the journey has started. When a person begins to move, they learn, they adapt, they discover new opportunities and new directions. Action teaches lessons that thinking alone can never provide. The path becomes clearer with every step taken. In life, the greatest regret people experience is not failure, but inaction. Many individuals look back on their lives, wishing they had taken more chances, wishing they had started earlier, wishing they had believed in themselves enough to try. The pain of regret is often heavier than the pain of effort. This is why learning to force yourself to take action is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. This book explores the mindset, the discipline, and the courage required to transform intention into action. It explains why people hesitate and how they can break the chains of procrastination, fear, and doubt. Through stories, reflections, and examples, it reveals how ordinary individuals create extraordinary results, simply by choosing to act again and again. The journey of action begins with a single decision, a quiet moment, when a person stops waiting and starts moving. That decision may appear small, yet it carries the power to reshape an entire life. Because when action begins, progress begins. When progress begins, confidence grows. And when confidence grows, the impossible. The purpose of this book is to inspire that first step and the many steps that follow. It reminds every reader that the power to move forward already exists within them. All that remains is the courage to use it and the discipline to act even when the path is uncertain. Force yourself to take action and watch how life begins to transform one step at a time. Chapter 1. The Hidden Power of Taking the First Step. Every great achievement in human history began. It carries a power that can transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary journey. Many people spend years thinking about what they want to do. They imagine success. They imagine happiness. They imagine a better future. Yet imagination alone cannot change reality. Only action has the power to turn ideas into results. Inside every human being, there is a deep source of potential waiting to be awakened. This potential is like a seed hidden beneath the soil. The seed already contains the possibility of a mighty tree, but it cannot grow unless it begins the process of breaking through the ground. In the same way, the dreams inside a person cannot grow unless the person forces themselves to take the first step. The first step is often the hardest part of any journey, because the mind is filled with uncertainty. The mind begins to ask many questions. What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if I am not good enough? These questions create hesitation, and hesitation becomes the wall that stops progress. Many individuals remain behind this wall for years, simply because they never challenged themselves to move beyond it. Imagine a young student who dreams of becoming a great public speaker. Every time he watches famous speakers, he feels inspired. Yet when the opportunity arrives for him to speak in front of his class, fear takes control. His heart beats faster, his hands feel cold, and his mind becomes filled with doubt. He thinks about sitting down and letting someone else. But at that moment, he decides to force himself to stand and say a few words. His voice may shake, and his speech may not be perfect, but something powerful happens. The moment he begins speaking, the fear slowly loses its control. After that experience, he realizes something important. The fear that once felt like a giant obstacle was only powerful because he allowed it to control his actions. The moment he acted, the fear began to shrink. Each time he speaks again, he becomes stronger and more confident. One small step created the beginning of a new version of himself. This is the hidden power of action. It breaks the illusion that you are unable to move forward. It reveals that courage is not something people are born with, but something that grows through action. When you force yourself to begin, you create a small victory, and every victory builds belief in your ability. Another example can be seen in the story of a young man who dreamed of becoming a successful entrepreneur. For many years, he talked about business ideas with his friends. He spent hours imagining how he would build a company that would change his life. Yet he never took the first real step because he believed he needed more knowledge, more money, and more perfect conditions. One day he noticed that years were passing while his dream remained only a conversation. He realized that waiting for perfect conditions was preventing him from starting. So he made a simple decision. He forced himself to create a small online store with very limited resources. The beginning was not impressive. The design was simple, yet every day he learned something new. He learned how to communicate with people. He learned how to solve problems and how to improve his product. Slowly, the small store began to grow. Years later, the same small beginning developed into a thriving business that provided opportunities for many people. When he looked back at his journey, he understood that the most important moment was not when he earned his first large profit. The most important moment was the day he forced himself to take the first step. Many people believe success comes from extraordinary talent, but the truth is that success often comes from ordinary individuals who refuse to remain inactive. They understand that progress begins the moment action replaces hesitation. They do not wait for perfect confidence because they know confidence grows through experience. Think about a person who wishes to become physically strong. The idea of exercise may appear difficult in the beginning. The body feels tired quickly, and the muscles may ache after training. If the person focuses only on discomfort, they will stop before. But if they force themselves to complete even a short workout, something changes. Their body slowly adapts, and their strength begins to increase. With each day, the effort becomes easier, and the results become visible. This pattern exists in almost every area of life. Writing, studying, learning a skill, building a career, or improving health all require the same principle. The first step is the gateway to improvement. Without that step, the door to growth remains closed. It is important to understand that the first step does not need to be large or dramatic. Many people delay action because they believe they must start with something perfect or impressive. In reality, small actions are often the most powerful beginning. Writing one page, studying one lesson, practicing one skill, or speaking one sentence may appear small, yet these actions accumulate over time. Small steps create momentum, and momentum is one of the strongest forces in human progress. Once momentum begins, it becomes easier to continue moving forward. The mind begins to accept action as a normal part of life, instead of a difficult challenge. Consider the story of a young artist who dreamed of creating beautiful paintings. In the beginning, she felt discouraged because the artwork she produced did not match the images in her imagination. She considered quitting because she believed she lacked talent. But instead of stopping, she made a decision to paint a little every day, even if the results were imperfect. At first, her paintings were simple and rough, but she continued practicing with determination. Over time, her techniques improved. Her understanding of color and shape became stronger, and her confidence grew. After many months, her work began to attract attention from others. People admired her creativity and her dedication. Eventually, she was able to share her art with a larger audience. When she reflected on her journey, she understood that the improvement did not happen suddenly. It happened because she forced herself to begin, and then continued taking small steps every day. Her success was built on countless moments when she chose action instead of hesitation. This lesson is powerful because it reminds us that action is a skill that anyone can develop. It does not belong only to the brave or the talented. It belongs to anyone who decides to move forward, even when the path is uncertain. The act of forcing yourself to take action is not a punishment. It is a gift you give to your future self. Your future achievements, your future confidence, and your future opportunities. Every moment you choose action, you strengthen your ability to create change in your life. You become a person who moves forward instead of waiting for life to push you. There will always be reasons to delay. There will always be distractions and doubts trying to steal your energy. Yet the individuals who transform their lives are the ones who recognize that action must come before comfort. They understand that the first step may feel difficult, but it also contains the power to begin something extraordinary. The hidden power within you is not waiting for the perfect day. It is waiting for the moment when you decide to stand up and move forward. When that moment arrives, and you force yourself to take the first step, you will discover that the journey toward your dreams has finally begun. Chapter 2. Breaking the chains of fear through action. Fear is one of the strongest forces that prevents people from taking action. It lives quietly inside the human mind, and often appears when a person stands at the edge of something new. Fear speaks in the language of doubt and uncertainty. It asks questions that weaken confidence and create hesitation. It tells a person that failure is waiting ahead, and that it is safer to remain where they are. Because of this, many people remain trapped in a place of comfort, even when they know that their dreams exist beyond that comfort. The truth about fear is simple yet powerful. Fear grows stronger when a person avoids action, and fear becomes weaker when a person moves forward. The mind often imagines danger that may never exist. It creates stories about embarrassment, rejection, or loss. These stories feel real because the mind repeats them again and again until they begin to shape behavior. Imagine a young woman who dreams of starting her own small business. She spends many nights thinking about creative ideas and imagining the joy of building something meaningful. Yet every time she thinks about starting, she feels a wave of fear. Her mind tells her that she might fail and lose money. Her mind tells her that people may criticize her work. Her mind tells her that others may be more talented and more prepared. Because of these thoughts, she delays the decision to begin. Days turn into months, and months slowly become years. The dream remains alive in her heart, but it never becomes reality because fear holds her in place. One day she notices something important. She sees another person in her community who started a small business with fewer resources and less experience. That person also faced fear, yet they decided to act anyway. This observation awakens something inside her. She realizes that courage does not belong only to a special group of people. Courage grows when someone refuses to let fear control their actions. With this realization, she decides to take a small step. She begins by writing down her business idea and creating a simple plan. The step feels uncomfortable, but she completes it. Anyway, the next day she speaks with a friend about her idea and asks for advice. Again, the fear appears, but she continues moving forward. After several weeks, she finally launches her small business. The beginning is not perfect. There are mistakes and moments of doubt, but something amazing begins to happen. Each day of action slowly replaces fear with confidence. She learns from every challenge, and her understanding grows stronger. When she looks back, she understands that the most important victory was not the success of the business. The greatest victory was breaking the chain of fear that once controlled her decisions. Fear often appears larger than reality because the mind exaggerates uncertainty. It builds imaginary barriers that seem impossible to cross. Yet the moment a person takes action, those barriers begin to weaken. Action exposes fear as something temporary rather than permanent. Another example can be seen in the life of a young man who dreamed of becoming a professional athlete. Since childhood, he loved the sport and spent hours watching great players compete at the highest level. However, when the opportunity came to try out for a competitive team, he felt overwhelmed by fear. He believed that other players were stronger, faster, and more skilled. For many days he considered avoiding the tryout because he did not want to experience rejection. Yet deep inside, he knew that avoiding the opportunity would create regret that might last for years. So he made a decision that changed his path. He forced himself to attend the tryout, even though fear was present in every thought. During the tryout, he made mistakes and struggled, but he also discovered something surprising. The other players were not perfect either. Many of them were also dealing with fear and pressure. Difference between them was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Although he did not become the best player immediately, the experience gave him valuable lessons. He understood that improvement requires exposure to challenge. He continued practicing and participating in competitions. Each experience strengthened his confidence and reduced the power of fear. Eventually, his dedication and courage allowed him to reach a higher level of performance. What once felt impossible slowly became achievable, simply because he refused to remain controlled by fear. Fear also appears in everyday situations that may seem small but carry deep emotional weight. A person may fear speaking in public, expressing their ideas, asking for an opportunity, or learning a new skill. In each situation, the mind tries to create a reason to avoid discomfort. The key to overcoming this pattern is understanding that action changes perception. When a person repeatedly avoids fear, the mind learns to believe that the situation is dangerous. When a person repeatedly acts despite fear, the mind learns that the situation can be managed. Over time, the same challenge that once felt terrifying becomes familiar and manageable. Consider the story of a young teacher who felt anxious every time she had to speak in front of a large classroom. During her first days, her voice felt weak and her confidence was fragile. She worried that her students would notice her nervousness and lose respect for her ability. Instead of giving up, she decided to face the situation every day with determination. She prepared carefully and forced herself to stand confidently in front of her students, even when fear was present. With each lesson, her comfort slowly increased. The students responded positively, and her confidence grew stronger. After several months, she realized that the fear that once seemed overwhelming had almost disappeared. The repeated action of teaching had replaced anxiety with skill and confidence. This transformation reveals an important truth. Fear rarely disappears before action begins. Instead, fear fades as a result of action. The courage people admire in successful individuals is often the result of countless moments when those individuals acted while fear was still present. Learning to force yourself to take action despite fear is one of the most valuable abilities you can develop in life. It opens doors that hesitation keeps closed. It creates opportunities that waiting can never produce. It builds a character that becomes stronger with every challenge faced. When you understand this principle, you begin to see fear differently. Instead of seeing it as a signal to stop, you begin to see it as a signal that growth is near. Whenever fear appears, it often means that you are approaching something meaningful, something that has the potential to expand your abilities and your understanding. The next time fear tries to convince you to remain, still remember that the feeling is temporary. The moment you take action, you weaken its power. Each step forward becomes a declaration that you refuse to allow fear to control your future. Life rewards those who move despite uncertainty. It rewards those who are willing to face discomfort in pursuit of progress. Every action taken in the presence of fear becomes a victory over limitation and a step closer to the life you truly want to create. Chapter 3: Building Discipline Through Consistent Action. Action begins with a decision, but long-lasting success is built through discipline. Discipline is the ability to continue moving forward, even when excitement fades and motivation becomes quiet. Many people start a journey with enthusiasm, but after a short period, they lose energy and return to old habits. This pattern is common because the human mind naturally seeks comfort and immediate pleasure. Discipline is the force that allows a person to move beyond temporary feelings and remain committed to progress. Consistency transforms small efforts into powerful results. When a person performs a positive action again and again, the action becomes part of their character. Over time, the effort that once felt difficult begins to feel natural. This transformation is the reason why disciplined individuals often appear calm and focused. They are not relying on sudden bursts of motivation. Instead, they rely on habits built through repeated action. Imagine a young student who dreams of becoming a skilled engineer. He understands that knowledge and practice are necessary for success, but he also realizes that the journey will require patience. In the beginning, he forces himself to study every day, even when he feels tired or distracted. Yet he continues his routine without allowing frustration to control his behavior. Weeks slowly turn into months, and the knowledge he gathers begins to connect in meaningful ways. Concepts that once seemed difficult become clear. His ability to solve problems improves, and his confidence grows stronger. When others ask him how he achieved such progress, he realizes that the answer is simple. He continued studying even on days when he did not feel motivated. This is the true nature of discipline. It does not demand perfection. It simply requires persistence. It asks a person to show up again and again regardless of temporary emotions. The power of this principle becomes even clearer when we observe examples from different areas of life. Consider the story of a young musician who dreamed of playing the piano with great skill. When she first began learning the instrument, the sounds she produced were slow and uncertain. Her fingers struggled to move with accuracy, and the melodies she loved seemed far beyond her ability. Many people in this situation would feel discouraged and stop practicing. However, she made a decision to dedicate time to practice every single day. She began with simple exercises and short pieces of music. The progress during the first few weeks felt small. Yet she remained patient and disciplined. After several months, something remarkable happened. Her fingers moved more smoothly, and her understanding of rhythm improved. The music began to flow with beauty and confidence. Audiences who listened to her performance believed she possessed natural talent, but they could not see the thousands of moments when she practiced alone with determination. Her success was not created by talent alone. It was created by the discipline of consistent action. Each practice session was like a small drop of water, slowly filling a large container. At first, a container appeared empty, but with time, it became full. Another example can be seen in the life of a man who decided to improve his physical health. For many years, he lived a sedentary lifestyle with little movement and unhealthy habits. When he looked in the mirror, he realized that his energy was low and his body felt weak. Instead of ignoring the problem, he chose to take action. During the first week, he began with short walks and simple exercises. The effort felt uncomfortable, and his body resisted the change. However, he made a promise to himself that he would continue no matter how small the progress appeared. Each day, he forced himself to repeat the routine. Gradually, his strength increased. His breathing became easier, and his energy improved. After several months, his body looked different, and his confidence. The transformation was not the result of a single intense workout. It was the result of hundreds of small actions performed consistently over time. These stories reveal a powerful lesson. Discipline is not something mysterious or reserved for a few special individuals. Discipline grows through repetition. When a person forces themselves to act even on days when motivation is weak, they build a habit that eventually becomes automatic. One of the greatest challenges people face is the belief that they must feel inspired before they begin working. This belief creates a cycle of waiting, because inspiration does not always arrive when we expect it. Disciplined individuals understand that action often comes before inspiration. When they begin working, their focus increases and creativity follows. Think about a writer who waits for perfect inspiration before writing a single sentence. The writer may spend many days staring at an empty page, waiting for the right idea. In contrast, another writer sits down every day and writes something even if the words are imperfect. Over time, the second writer produces many pages of work and gradually improves their craft. The difference between these two individuals is not talent. The difference is discipline. The second writer forces themselves to act regardless of mood, and this consistent effort leads to growth. Discipline also creates a sense of personal trust. When you repeatedly follow through on your commitments, you begin to trust your own ability to take action. This trust becomes a powerful source of confidence because you know that your progress does not depend on unpredictable emotions. It depends on a system of consistent effort that you control. Consider the example of a young teacher who wanted to improve the quality of her lessons. She decided to spend extra time preparing creative activities for her students every evening after school. Some days she felt tired and tempted to skip the preparation, but she reminded herself of her purpose and continued working. After a full year of disciplined effort, her classroom became a place of excitement and learning. Students felt inspired and engaged because of the energy she invested in her work. Her reputation as an excellent teacher grew not because of a single extraordinary moment, but because she consistently chose to act with dedication. Discipline is often described as the bridge between goals and achievement. Without discipline, goals remain distant ideas, but with discipline, those goals become reachable destinations. Each day of consistent action moves you closer to the future you desire. The beauty of discipline is that it can be developed by anyone, regardless of background or circumstances. It begins with a simple commitment to take action today, and then repeat that action tomorrow. Even if the effort feels small, it carries value because it strengthens the habit of progress. As you continue forcing yourself to take action day after day, you will notice a transformation in the way you see challenges. Tasks that once seemed difficult will feel manageable, and your confidence will grow naturally. The path to success will no longer appear mysterious, because you will understand that consistent effort is the true foundation of achievement. Every day offers a new opportunity to practice discipline. Each decision to act moves you one step closer to the person you want to become. The journey may require patience, but the rewards are powerful, because discipline has the ability to shape a life filled with growth, strength, and purpose. Chapter 4. Defeating procrastination and creating momentum. Procrastination is one of the most common barriers that prevents people from taking action. Many individuals have dreams, goals, and responsibilities, yet they delay the moment of beginning. They tell themselves that they will start tomorrow, or later in the day, or when they feel more prepared. This habit of postponing action slowly becomes a pattern that steals time, energy. The mind often creates excuses to justify delay. It may say that the task is too difficult, or that more information is needed before beginning. Sometimes it promises that there will be a better moment in the future, when motivation will suddenly appear. However, that perfect moment rarely arrives. As a result, people remain stuck in a cycle where ideas exist, but progress never begins. The truth about procrastination is that it grows stronger when it is allowed to continue. Every time a person delays action, the habit becomes deeper. The mind learns that avoiding effort brings temporary comfort, and it begins to repeat this behavior again and again. Breaking this cycle requires a deliberate decision to act, even when the mind prefers to wait. Imagine a university student who receives an important assignment that must be completed within several weeks. The student knows that the work requires research planning and careful writing. During the first few days, the student tells himself that there is still plenty of time. Instead of starting the assignment, he chooses entertainment and relaxation. As the days pass, the deadline becomes closer, yet the task now feels larger and more stressful. Because the student waited too long, the pressure increases and the work becomes rushed. The final result is not as good as it could have been, and the student feels frustrated. Now imagine a different approach. The same student receives the assignment, but decides to begin immediately, even if the first step is small. He opens his books, reads a few pages, and writes a short outline. The effort during the first day may only take a short amount of time, yet something powerful happens. The assignment no longer feels like a distant problem. Instead, it becomes an active project that is already moving forward. Each day the student adds a little more work until the assignment is completed with confidence instead of stress. There is a feeling of control and accomplishment. The difference between the two outcomes is simple. One path followed procrastination, while the other followed action. Momentum is the powerful force that replaces procrastination. When action begins, momentum works like a rolling wheel. At first, it requires effort to push the wheel forward, but once it starts moving, the motion becomes easier. The same principle exists in human behavior. When a person begins working, even with a small step, the mind becomes engaged and energy begins to flow. Consider the story of a man who wanted to write a book for many years. He had ideas, stories, and experiences that he believed could inspire others. Yet he constantly postponed the writing process because the task seemed too large. The thought of writing an entire book felt overwhelming, so he avoided the project again and again. One evening he decided to change his approach. Instead of thinking about writing hundreds of pages, he focused only on writing a single paragraph. That small action felt manageable, and he completed it quickly. The next day, he wrote another paragraph, and then another. Within a few weeks, those paragraphs turned into several chapters. The project that once seemed impossible was slowly becoming real. The key to this transformation was the decision to replace delay with a small action that created momentum. Momentum not only helps with productivity, but also changes the way the mind perceives effort. When a person begins working, the brain shifts from resistance to engagement. Ideas start to appear, solutions become clearer, and confidence increases. This mental shift makes it easier to continue moving forward. Another example can be seen in the life of a young woman who wanted to learn a new language. She often imagined the benefits of being able to communicate with people yet she kept delaying the learning process because she believed it would require too much time and effort. One day she decided to begin with a simple routine. She spent 10 minutes learning new words and practicing pronunciation. The time was short, but she repeated the routine every day. After several weeks, her vocabulary expanded and she could understand simple conversations. The progress encouraged her to continue studying, and she gradually increased her practice time. Months later, she was able to speak with confidence in situations that once seemed intimidating. The journey began with a small decision to act, instead of waiting for perfect motivation. This example demonstrates that defeating procrastination does not require dramatic effort. It requires a shift in mindset. Instead of focusing on the size of the task, a person focuses on the next small step. Each step builds momentum, and each moment of progress reduces the temptation to delay. Another powerful strategy for overcoming procrastination is creating a clear starting point. Many people delay action because they feel uncertain about where to begin. When the path is unclear, the mind becomes confused and chooses avoidance. By defining a simple first action, the confusion disappears and movement becomes easier. For example, a person who wants to improve physical fitness may feel overwhelmed by complex workout plans. Instead of delaying the goal, the person can begin with a short walk or a few basic exercises. This simple action creates movement and opens the door for further improvement. Momentum also grows when individuals celebrate small victories. Recognizing progress provides motivation and reinforces the habit of action. Each completed step reminds the mind that effort leads to positive results. Consider the experience of a young entrepreneur who wanted to create a new product. The project required research, design, and communication with customers. In the beginning, the number of tasks seemed overwhelming. Instead of postponing the work, he decided to focus on one task each day. He spent one day researching customer needs. Another day, he sketched design ideas. On another day, he contacted potential partners. Each action felt small, but together, they created steady progress. Over time, the product was developed and introduced to the market. The success of the project was not the result of a single dramatic effort. It was the result of many small actions performed consistently. Each step defeated procrastination and strengthened momentum. Understanding the relationship between procrastination and momentum allows you to take control of your progress. Whenever you notice the urge to delay, remember that action is the only cure. Even the smallest step has the power to break the cycle of waiting. When you force yourself to act, you send a powerful message to your mind. You demonstrate that your goals are more important than temporary comfort. This mindset gradually transforms hesitation into determination and delay into movement. Life rewards those who begin, even when the beginning feels imperfect. The moment you replace procrastination with action, you start creating momentum. And once momentum is alive, it becomes one of the greatest allies in the journey toward success and fulfillment. Chapter 5. Turning Dreams into Reality Through Action. Every human being carries dreams inside the mind and heart. Dreams are powerful because they give direction to life. They create excitement, hope, and a vision. Yet many dreams remain only as thoughts because they are never supported by action. A dream without action is only imagination, But a dream supported by consistent effort becomes a real possibility. Many people enjoy dreaming about success. They imagine a successful career, a healthy body, a meaningful life, or the ability to help others. These dreams create temporary motivation, but motivation alone cannot build reality. Reality grows through daily effort and determined action. Imagine a young boy who dreams of becoming a great football player. He watches famous athletes on television and feels inspired by their speed, strength, and skill. Every time he sees them play, he imagines himself standing in a stadium, surrounded by cheering fans. However, if the boy only watches games and never practices, his dream will remain far away. Now imagine that the same boy decides to take action. Every morning he wakes up early and practices running, passing, and controlling the ball. He trains even when the weather is difficult, and even when his body feels tired. Day after day, he repeats these actions with patience. At first, his progress may appear slow, but every practice session builds strength and skill. His movements become faster, and his understanding of the game improves. Over time, his dedication attracts attention from coaches and teammates. The dream that once existed only in his imagination begins to take shape in reality. This example shows an important truth. Dreams require effort to grow, just as a seed requires water, sunlight, and care. A dream requires discipline, learning, and persistence. Without action, the dream remains hidden beneath the surface. Another example can be seen in the story of a young woman who dreamed of becoming a successful author. Yet every time she thought about writing, she felt overwhelmed by the size of the project. She believed that writing an entire book would require extraordinary talent and endless time. For many years, she carried the dream without acting on it. And one evening she realized that waiting had brought her no closer to her goal. She decided to begin with a simple habit. She forced herself to write 1 page every day. The first pages were not perfect, and sometimes she doubted her ability. Yet she continued writing because she understood that progress required patience. After many weeks, those pages formed several chapters, and the chapters slowly grew into a complete manuscript. When she finally finished the book, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The dream that once seemed distant had become real because she replaced hesitation with daily action. Her journey proved that even large achievements begin with small, consistent steps. Action also teaches lessons that dreaming alone cannot provide. When people begin working toward their goals, they encounter challenges, mistakes, and unexpected situations. These experiences may feel uncomfortable, but they also provide valuable knowledge. Each mistake reveals a better way to move forward, and each challenge strengthens resilience. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur who wanted to create a technology company. He spent years imagining innovative products that could improve the lives of many people, yet he hesitated to begin because he feared failure and criticism. One day he decided that dreaming without action would never lead to progress. He gathered a small team of friends and began working on a simple prototype. The first version of the product contained many problems, and the feedback from users was not always positive. Instead of giving up, he treated each problem as a lesson. The team improved the design, tested new ideas, and listened carefully to feedback. Gradually, the product became more reliable and useful. Customers began to appreciate the value it provided. Years later, the small project grew into a successful company that employed many people and served thousands of customers. The founder often said that the most important moment in his journey was the day he decided to stop dreaming and start building. This transformation reveals a powerful principle. Dreams are important because they inspire direction, but action is essential because it creates results. When dreams are combined with consistent effort, they become the foundation of meaningful achievements. Another example can be found in the life of a young teacher who dreamed of creating a classroom where students felt excited to learn. She imagined lessons that would inspire curiosity, creativity, and confidence among her students. Instead of simply imagining this environment, she took action. She spent extra time preparing interactive activities, reading new teaching methods, and finding creative ways to present information. Her preparation required effort, but she believed that her dream of inspiring students was worth the dedication. Over time, her classroom became a place where students felt motivated and engaged. They participated actively in lessons and developed a love for learning. The teacher realized that her dream had become reality, not because of luck, but because she took consistent action to improve her methods. Turning dreams into reality also requires patience. Many people expect quick results and become discouraged when progress appears slow. Yet meaningful achievements often require long periods of effort. The early stages of a journey may feel uncertain, but persistence gradually builds momentum. Imagine a gardener planting a tree. The gardener places a small seed into the soil and cares for it with water and sunlight. For many days there is little visible change, but beneath the soil, the seed is developing roots. Slowly a small plant appears, and with continued care, grows into a strong tree. Dreams grow in the same way. The early efforts may seem small and invisible, but they create a foundation for future success. Each action adds strength to the dream, until one day the results become visible. Another lesson about turning dreams into reality is the importance of believing in the value of your effort. When individuals believe their work has meaning, they are more willing to overcome obstacles and continue moving forward. This belief acts as a powerful source of motivation during difficult moments. Think about an artist who dreams of sharing meaningful paintings with the world. The artist spends countless hours experimenting with colors, shapes, and ideas. Some attempts may fail, and some people may not understand the work. Yet the artist continues creating because the dream of expressing beauty and emotion is stronger than temporary disappointment. Eventually, the dedication leads to recognition and appreciation from others. The dream becomes reality because the artist chose action again and again despite challenges. Every dream has the potential to become real, but only if it is supported by consistent effort. Waiting for perfect circumstances often leads to disappointment because life rarely offers ideal conditions. Progress belongs to those who begin even when the path feels uncertain. When you force yourself to take action, you send a message to your mind and to the world that your dreams matter. Each step forward brings you closer to the life you imagine. The distance between dreaming and achieving becomes smaller with every effort you make. Your dreams are not distant fantasies. They are possibilities waiting for your commitment and action. The moment you decide to work toward them with dedication, they begin to transform from ideas into living realities. The journey may require patience and courage, but the reward is a life shaped by purpose, determination, and achievement. Chapter 6. Developing Self-Belief Through Action. Self-belief is one of the most powerful forces that shapes a person's life. When a person believes in their ability to grow, learn, and succeed, they move through challenges with courage and determination. Without self-belief, even simple tasks can feel impossible and overwhelming. Many people wait for confidence before they begin something new, but the truth is that confidence rarely appears before action. Instead, confidence is created through action. Every time a person forces themselves to act, they build evidence that they are capable. This evidence slowly transforms doubt into belief. The process may begin with small steps, but each step strengthens the foundation of self-trust. Imagine a young student who always believed that mathematics was too difficult for him. In school, he avoided solving problems because he was afraid of making mistakes. His fear created a belief that he was not intelligent enough to understand the subject. Because of this belief, he stopped trying, and his performance remained poor. One day, a teacher encouraged him to approach the subject differently. Instead of avoiding problems, the teacher asked him to solve just one simple problem each day. The student did not feel confident, but he agreed to try. The first few attempts were challenging, yet he slowly began to understand the patterns within the questions. As days passed, he solved more problems, and his ability improved. Each correct answer became a small victory that weakened his old belief about being incapable. Eventually, he realized that the problem was not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of action. Once he started practicing, his confidence began to grow naturally. This example reveals a powerful truth. Self-belief grows from experience. When you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can learn, adapt, and improve, your mind begins to trust your ability. Doubt slowly loses its influence, and confidence becomes stronger. Another example can be seen in the story of a young woman who dreamed of becoming a leader in her workplace. She had many ideas for improving projects and helping her team succeed. But she often remained silent during meetings. She believed that others were more knowledgeable and experienced than she was. For many months, she watched others speak while her ideas remained unshared. Eventually, she realized that her silence was preventing her growth. She decided to challenge her fear by sharing one idea during the next meeting. When the moment arrived, her heart beat quickly, and her voice, yet she spoke anyway. Her colleagues listened carefully and appreciated her suggestion. This positive response surprised her and gave her the courage to continue sharing her thoughts. Over time, she participated more actively in discussions, and her confidence grew stronger. Her supervisors noticed her initiative and leadership qualities. Eventually, she was given greater responsibilities within the organization. The transformation did not happen because she suddenly felt fearless. It happened because she forced herself to take action. Despite her uncertainty, each step strengthened her belief in her own voice and abilities. Self-belief also grows when individuals accept mistakes as part of learning. Many people hesitate to act because they fear failure. They believe that making mistakes will prove they are not capable. In reality, mistakes are often the most valuable teachers because they reveal areas for improvement. Consider the experience of a young chef who wanted to master the art of cooking. When he began experimenting in the kitchen, many dishes did not turn out as expected. Some meals lacked flavor, while others were overcooked or poorly balanced. Instead of giving up, he treated every mistake as a lesson. He studied ingredients, practiced techniques, and adjusted his methods. With each attempt, he learned something new. Gradually, his cooking improved, and his confidence in the kitchen increased. Customers who tasted his food later praised the creativity and quality of his dishes. They could not see the many mistakes that had shaped his skill, but those mistakes were essential in building his belief and mastery. Self-belief is closely connected to the willingness to act repeatedly. When individuals take action again and again, they gather experiences that prove their growth. Each completed task, each solved problem, and each challenge overcome becomes a reminder that they are capable of progress. Another example can be found in the journey of a young runner who wanted to complete a long-distance race. At the beginning, he doubted whether his body had enough strength and endurance. The idea of running many kilometers seemed. He decided to start with short distances and gradually increase his effort. During the first week, he ran only a small distance, but he remained consistent. Each week, he extended the distance slightly, and his body adapted to the challenge. After several months, he was able to run longer distances with confidence. When the day of the race finally arrived, he completed it successfully. Accomplishment filled him with pride because he remembered the days when he doubted his ability. His self-belief did not come from imagination. It came from the actions he repeated every day. Each training session proved that he was capable of more than he originally believed. This lesson applies to every area of life. Whether you want to learn a new skill, improve your career, develop healthy habits, or pursue creative goals, the path begins with action. Confidence grows when you give yourself opportunities to experience progress. Another important aspect of developing self-belief is the habit of keeping promises to yourself. When you set a goal and follow through with action, you strengthen your sense of reliability. Your mind begins to recognize that your intentions are supported by effort. For example, imagine a person who decides to wake up early each morning to study or exercise. The first few mornings may feel difficult because the body prefers comfort and rest. Yet each time the person keeps the promise to wake up early, they strengthen their self-discipline and belief in their own commitment. After several weeks, the habit becomes easier, and the person begins to feel proud of their consistency. This pride is not based on comparison with others, but on the knowledge that they are capable of guiding their own actions. Developing self-belief also requires patience, because confidence grows gradually. Like a tree that grows stronger over time, belief becomes deeper with each experience of progress. The key is to continue acting, even when results are not immediately visible. Think about an artist learning to paint detailed portraits. In the beginning, the drawings may lack accuracy and proportion, yet with continuous practice, the artist begins to notice improvement. Each new painting reveals growth and strengthens the belief that mastery is possible. Eventually, the artist creates portraits that capture emotion, beauty, and detail. The journey from beginner to skilled artist was not created by sudden confidence, but by countless moments of action and learning. When you force yourself to take action, you give yourself the opportunity to discover your true potential. The doubts that once seemed permanent begin to fade as evidence of your ability grows stronger. Self-belief is not a gift given only to a few people. It is a quality that anyone can develop through consistent effort. Every action you take becomes a message to your mind that you are capable of progress and achievement. As your belief grows, you will approach challenges with greater courage. Opportunities that once seemed intimidating will become invitations to grow. The journey of action will continue to strengthen your confidence until you realize that the power to create change has always existed within you. Chapter 7. The Power of Small Steps. Many people believe that success requires huge dramatic actions. They imagine that great achievements must begin with extraordinary effort or perfect conditions. Because of this belief, they often feel overwhelmed before they even begin. The truth is very different. Most success stories begin with small, simple steps that grow stronger through repetition. Yet they contain the power to create powerful change over time. When a person forces themselves to take a small action, they begin a process that slowly builds progress. Each step adds to the previous one, and gradually a large achievement begins to take shape. Imagine a young man who dreams of becoming physically strong and healthy. He looks at athletes and feels inspired, but he also feels discouraged because his current strength is very limited. If he believes that he must immediately train like a professional athlete, he may never start because the challenge appears too large. Instead, he decides to begin with a small step. He commits to a short walk every morning. The effort seems simple, but he performs it consistently. After several days, the walk becomes easier, and he adds light exercises to his routine. Weeks later, his body becomes stronger, and his confidence increases. The transformation did not begin with an extreme workout. It began with a small step repeated with patience. Over time, those small steps produced a powerful result. This principle exists in every area of life. Small actions performed consistently have the ability to change habits, skills, and even identity. When people focus on small steps, they remove the pressure of perfection and allow progress to grow naturally. Consider the story of a young writer who wanted to develop the habit of writing daily. She often imagined creating inspiring stories, but she struggled to begin because she believed that every writing session needed to produce many pages of perfect work. One day she changed her approach. She decided to write only a few sentences each day. The task felt easy enough that she could not justify avoiding it. Even on busy days, she could complete this small commitment. After several weeks, those few sentences turned into paragraphs, and the paragraphs became full pages. Writing became a natural part of her routine, because the small step removed the fear of starting. Eventually, she produced enough material to create meaningful stories and articles. Her success was not created by forcing herself to write for many hours at once. It was created by respecting the power of small, consistent actions. Another example can be seen in the journey of a young entrepreneur who wanted to start an online business. The idea of building a company felt intimidating because there were many tasks to complete, such as research, design, marketing, and communication with customers. Instead of trying to complete everything at once, he focused on one small task each day. One day, he studied the needs of potential customers. Another day, he designed a simple website. On another day, he created a small product prototype. Each task seemed minor, but together they created steady progress. After several months, the business began to operate successfully. The entrepreneur realized that his progress was built through the accumulation of small, focused actions. Small steps also help people overcome fear and hesitation. When a challenge appears large, the mind often creates resistance. However, when the task is small, the resistance becomes weaker. The mind becomes more willing to begin, and once action begins, momentum starts to grow. Imagine a student who must prepare for an important examination. The amount of material feels overwhelming, and the student feels tempted to delay studying. If the student decides to study for many hours immediately, the task may feel exhausting and difficult to maintain. Instead, the student begins with a short study session that focuses on one topic. The effort is manageable, and the student completes it successfully. The next day, another short session follows. Over time, these small sessions accumulate into deep understanding and strong preparation. By the time the examination arrives, the student feels confident because consistent small efforts created a strong foundation of knowledge. Small steps are also powerful because they create habits. A habit forms when an action is repeated regularly until it becomes automatic. When a behavior becomes a habit, it requires less mental effort and becomes part of everyday life. For example, consider a person who wants to develop the habit of reading books. Instead of forcing themselves to read for long hours, they begin by reading a few pages each night before sleep. This small activity soon becomes part of their nightly routine. Weeks later, they discover that reading feels natural and enjoyable. The number of pages gradually increases, and their knowledge expands. The habit was created through a simple step repeated with patience. Another inspiring example can be found in the life of a young artist who dreamed of mastering the art of drawing detailed portraits. In the beginning, she struggled with proportion and shading, and her drawings often looked incomplete. Rather than feeling discouraged, she decided to practice one specific skill each day. One day, she focused on drawing eyes. Another day, she practiced shading techniques. On another day, she studied facial structure. Each practice session was focused and manageable. Over time, these small exercises combined to create a strong artistic ability. Her portraits became more detailed and expressive, and people began to admire her work. Her improvement was not the result of a single dramatic effort. It was the result of many small steps that slowly developed her skill. Small steps also create confidence because they provide frequent experiences of success. Each completed action reminds the mind that progress is possible. These small victories motivate a person to continue moving forward. Imagine a person who wants to improve their communication skills. They may feel nervous speaking in large groups, so they begin with small conversations. They share ideas with friends or participate in short discussions. Gradually, they gain comfort and confidence. Later, they feel ready to speak in larger settings because their earlier experiences prepared them for greater challenges. Each step built the courage needed for the next step. The beauty of small steps is that they are accessible to everyone. No matter how large your dream may be, you can always begin with a small action. The journey toward achievement does not require immediate perfection. It requires willingness to begin and patience to continue. When people respect the value of small steps, They remove the pressure that often leads to procrastination. They understand that progress is not measured only by large milestones, but also by the quiet accumulation of daily effort. Every great structure is built brick by brick. Every long journey is completed step by step. In the same way, every meaningful achievement grows through repeated small actions. When you force yourself to take a small step today, you begin shaping a better tomorrow. The step may appear simple, but it carries the potential to create lasting change. With patience, dedication, and consistency, those small steps will eventually lead you toward the life and success you once imagined only as a dream. Chapter 8. Creating Strong Habits Through Action. Human life is greatly shaped by habits. Habits are the actions that people repeat so often that they become a natural part of daily life. A person may not always notice them, yet they influence productivity, health, character, and success. When positive habits are developed, they guide a person toward growth and achievement. When negative habits dominate, they slowly limit progress and potential. The most important truth about habits is that they are created through repeated action. Every time a person forces themselves to take a positive step, they strengthen a pattern in the mind. Over time, the action becomes easier, and eventually, it happens almost automatically. This is why people who appear disciplined often rely on habits rather than constant motivation. Imagine a young student who wants to improve academic performance. In the past, the student studied only when examinations approached, and this habit created stress and poor results. One day, the student decides to change this pattern. Instead of waiting for pressure, the student creates a simple habit of studying for a short time every evening. During the first few days, the routine feels unfamiliar, and the mind tries to find excuses to skip the session. However, the student forces themselves to follow the plan. Even when the study session is brief, the action is completed consistently. After several weeks, something interesting begins to happen. The study time feels natural, and the mind becomes more focused during learning. Because the student now reviews lessons regularly, understanding becomes deeper and confidence increases. When examination time arrives, the student feels calm because the knowledge has been built gradually. The improvement in performance is not the result of sudden effort, but the result of a strong habit developed through consistent action. Habits are powerful because they reduce the need for constant decision-making. When an action becomes a habit, the mind no longer debates whether to perform it. The behavior simply becomes part of daily routine. This allows a person to maintain progress without relying entirely on willpower. Consider the story of a young professional who wanted to develop the habit of waking early in the morning. In the past, the person often slept late and rushed through the morning routine. This pattern created stress and reduced productivity. The individual decided to change this lifestyle by creating a simple morning habit. Each night the alarm was set for an earlier time, and each morning the person forced themselves to rise immediately instead of returning to sleep. The first week required effort because the body resisted the new schedule, yet the routine was repeated every day without exception. After several weeks, the body adjusted to the pattern and waking early began to feel natural. The new habit created extra time for exercise planning and personal development. The entire day became more organized and productive. All of this transformation began with the decision to repeat a simple action consistently. Another example can be seen in the life of a young writer who wanted to develop creativity and discipline. Instead of waiting for inspiration, the writer created a habit of writing at the same time every day. Even if the writing session produced only a small amount of work, the routine was respected. At first, the ideas felt slow and uncertain, but the daily practice kept the mind engaged. Over time, creativity began to flow more freely because the mind expected the writing period each day. Eventually, the writer produced many articles and stories simply because the habit of writing had become part of everyday life. This story demonstrates an important principle: action creates habits and habits create results. When a person commits to repeating a positive behavior, progress becomes almost inevitable. Habits also influence identity. When individuals perform certain actions repeatedly, they begin to see themselves differently. A person who exercises regularly begins to see themselves as someone who values health. A person who reads daily begins to see themselves as a learner. This change in identity strengthens the habit even further because people naturally act in ways that match how they see themselves. Imagine a young artist who practices drawing every day. At first, the artist may simply see the activity as practice. However, after many weeks of consistent effort, the artist begins to think of themselves as a dedicated creator. This new identity encourages further effort and improvement. Another powerful example can be found in the story of a man who wanted to improve his physical health. After years of unhealthy habits, he decided to change his lifestyle. Instead of attempting extreme changes, he focused on building small, positive habits. He began by drinking more water, choosing healthier meals, and walking. These actions were simple, but they were repeated consistently. Over time, the small habits formed a strong routine that improved his energy and overall well-being. Eventually, exercise and balanced nutrition became natural parts of his life. The transformation did not occur overnight, but the power of repeated action created lasting change. Creating strong habits also requires patience, because the mind needs time to adapt. Many people begin new habits with enthusiasm, but stop after a short period because results are not immediately visible. However, habits grow stronger with repetition and consistency. Think about a person who wants to learn a musical instrument. In the beginning, the practice sessions may feel slow and difficult. The fingers may struggle to follow the correct movements, and the music may not sound smooth. If the person continues practicing every day, the body gradually learns the patterns. The fingers become more flexible, and the mind understands rhythm and melody. The improvement becomes visible because the habit of practice remained consistent. Another lesson about habits is that they should be simple enough to repeat regularly. If an action is too complicated or demanding, it becomes difficult to maintain. Starting with small, manageable behaviors increases the chance that the habit will continue. For example, a person who wants to develop a reading habit might begin with just a few pages each night. Once the routine becomes comfortable, the reading time can naturally increase. The key is consistency rather than intensity. Positive habits also create a powerful ripple effect. When one healthy habit is established, it often encourages other positive behaviors. A person who begins exercising may also become more mindful of nutrition and sleep. A person who begins studying regularly may also improve time management and organization. This ripple effect shows how a single habit can influence many aspects of life. The process begins with action repeated again and again until it becomes automatic. When you force yourself to take action each day, you are not only completing a task, you are shaping your habits and ultimately shaping your future. Your daily choices become the building blocks of your character and success. Strong habits remove many of the barriers that once prevented progress. They replace hesitation with routine and transform effort into net. The journey of creating powerful habits begins with a simple decision to act today and repeat that action tomorrow. With patience and consistency, these small repeated actions will form habits that guide you toward a life of growth, productivity, and achievement. Conclusion: the life-changing power of taking action. Throughout life, many people carry dreams, goals, and visions of a better future. They imagine success, happiness, growth, and meaningful achievements. Yet the difference between those who transform their dreams into reality and those who remain in the world of imagination is very simple. The difference is action. Action is the force that turns ideas into results. It is the bridge between desire and achievement. Without action, even the greatest dreams remain silent within the mind. When a person forces themselves to move forward, they begin a journey that slowly reshapes their life. Every step taken with determination creates progress even when the step feels small. or uncertain. One of the most important lessons of life is that waiting rarely creates success. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for confidence, waiting for opportunity, or waiting for motivation. However, life rarely presents perfect conditions. Growth begins when a person decides to act, even when the path is not completely clear. Every chapter of this journey has shown that action has the power to overcome fear, build discipline, create momentum, develop self-belief, and form strong habits. These elements work together to create a powerful foundation for success. When individuals force themselves to act, they break the chains of hesitation and step into a world of possibility. Fear often appears when people face something new. Fear tells them to remain safe and avoid risk. Yet the stories and examples throughout this journey reveal a deeper truth. Fear loses its power when action begins. The moment a person steps forward, fear begins to shrink and courage begins to grow. Discipline also becomes stronger through action. When individuals repeat positive behaviors every day, those actions become habits. Habits shape character, and character shapes destiny. A person who builds the habit of acting with purpose gradually becomes someone who creates progress in every area of life. Another powerful lesson is the importance of small steps. Many people believe that success requires huge dramatic effort, but the truth is that great achievements often begin with very small actions. A single step taken today may seem minor, but when that step is repeated daily, it creates powerful momentum. The power of small steps can be seen in the growth of knowledge, strength, creativity, and skill. A student who studies a little every day builds deep understanding. An athlete who trains consistently develops strength and endurance. A writer who writes regularly produces meaningful work. These results appear over time because action continues even when progress feels slow. Habits also play a central role in transforming dreams into reality. When positive actions are repeated regularly, they become natural behaviors that guide everyday life. A person who develops habits of learning, discipline, and effort no longer depends on motivation alone. Progress becomes part of daily routine. Self-belief grows in the same way. Confidence is not something that suddenly appears without effort. It is built through experience. Each action, each challenge, and each success becomes evidence that growth is possible. As individuals continue to act, they begin to trust their own ability to overcome obstacles and achieve meaningful goals. The journey of forcing yourself to take action is not always easy. There will be moments when doubt appears, and moments when the mind searches for comfort instead of effort. Yet these moments are part of every meaningful path. The individuals who create extraordinary lives are not those who avoid difficulty, but those who continue moving forward despite it. Imagine looking back on your life many years from now. The greatest satisfaction will not come from the times when you remained comfortable and inactive. It will come from the moments when you had the courage to act, when you tried something new, when you faced challenges, and when you refused to give up on your goals. Action creates experience. Experience creates growth, and growth creates a life filled with purpose. Every step forward adds a new chapter to your personal story, and every decision to act becomes proof that you are shaping your own future. The message of this journey is simple. Your dreams deserve more than imagination. They deserve effort, dedication, and consistent action. The future you desire is not built by waiting. It is built by the choices you make today. When you force yourself to take action, you awaken the potential that already exists within you. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You develop strength where once there was doubt, and you create a path that leads toward achievement, fulfillment, and personal growth. Remember that progress does not require perfection. It requires willingness to begin. Each small step carries value because it moves you forward. The journey may be long, but every action brings you closer to the life you wish to create. The power to transform your future is already in your hands. The only question that remains is whether you'll choose to act, take the step, move forward, create momentum, and allow your actions to shape the life you truly desire. The end.
Kindly subscribe to my channel.